there's something that I want to talk about, and it's going to change real estate buying, purchasing, real estate agent relationships with their buyers and sellers forever. This is something that we've seen coming. I've talked about it a few times, but I don't think everybody truly understands how this is going to affect your relationship with your real estate agent as a buyer or as a seller. And I'm going to talk about it in this video. This all takes place August 17th. They kicked the can on it a couple times. Don't know if they're going to kick the can on it anymore. But on August 17th, to look at any property with a buyer's agent, with a real estate agent, to look at any property, before you even go into the house, you've got to sign a buyer's agent agreement. And you know, I've heard a lot of agents try to skip around this. Well, the MLSs are going to enforce it. This is going to change real estate as we know it, because one, you're going to have to research your realtor, your real estate agent, before you engage in a contract with them. They're going to have to prove their worth. And there's some pros and cons of this, and I'm going to talk about both. You know, you're going to have to state the who, what, when, where, and why on a buyer's agreement, and what this agent is going to do for you and what they're going to get paid. Now, NAR created this entire problem. They're the ones that, since 2018, 2019, have not enforced the standard, and their brand is pretty much broken. And they're taking it out on the agents. You know, always, your commission has been negotiable. It's been a relationship between buyer, seller, agent, and between buyers and sellers agents. You know, it's always been listed on the MLS, and you knew before you got to the house what your commission was going to wind up being. You know, there's a point as a real estate agent, and since I'm a real estate agent, I'm just going to lay it out to everybody as plain as day. And I'm a pretty plain spoken person. You know, there's just a point that a deal is just unprofitable for a realtor, real estate agent. And there's really like no way to say, hey, I'm spending time away from my family. I'm taking the risk of the deal, which every deal is risky for an agent. I know quite a few agents being sued right now over stuff that they had no control over. But the risk of the deal and just how hard some of this stuff can be. 30-day, 40, 50-day, 60, sometimes 90-day relationship. Making sure all the documents are correct, making sure your guidance and everything you said was, you know, correct. And, you know, there's just so many landmines in this stuff. Look at the water right here. This is here in Navy Point. I'm gonna do my best to break up the wind noise in this video, but it's hard to shoot outside. But, you know, usually you have a single agent relationship or you have a transaction agent relationship. And single agent is, you know, you're being a fiduciary, you're being a very aggressive actor on behalf of your client. Transaction agent is one that's just trying to facilitate both sides, get the deal done in a very professional and respectful manner. Sometimes that's usually the best way, because nobody wants to be combative in a deal, and it really winds up helping nobody. You know, being a real estate agent is just like any other business. It has to be profitable, and you have to be able to make a living. And that's something I feel like the judge has not really figured out in this whole debacle with NAR, is they're deciding on some things with the suit with NAR that are not going to be logistically attainable for a lot of agents. Like, for one, and I'm going to talk about these in this video, and I'm trying to make this as concise as possible because everybody likes to sharpshoot your words on these videos. This is a very serious matter. And one, it's going to greatly affect the unrepresented buyer. And a lot of people think that they can represent themselves on a deal. And unless you've done this multiple times and you've bought a lot of properties, you are not going to outwit the seller's agent that does this every day. And underneath this type of transaction, the seller's agent is going to be a fiduciary for the seller. And when you go to them thinking you're going to not pay a buyer's agent, when you go to them, they're not looking out for your best at heart. I don't care what anybody in the comment section is going to say. They will represent their seller. And if you think that you know every document that's supposed to be disclosed in the transaction in every way possible, you need to look at this piece of property before making a mistake or overpaying or buying a property with too much renovation or something is just not feasible, or you wind up going through the whole loan process and the loan doesn't go through because you're using a VA loan and that house won't qualify for VA, or you're using a FHA loan and that house ain't going to qualify for an FHA loan. Go through the entire loan process, waste thousands of dollars to know, hey, they're not going to do those repairs. You don't have a deal. And this is just going to go over and over and over again in many aspects. You didn't know there was an airport. You didn't know there was a sinkhole. You didn't know they had termites. You didn't know all these things. And that seller's just going to sit back and let you make these. They're going to let you make these mistakes. I mean, like, people say, oh, well, he's got a fiduciary for the deal. Good luck, man. There are so many terrible agents out there that will do some really terrible stuff, like let you buy a hunk of sand that you can't build on, let you buy a hunk of sand that you can't put a driveway on. And this is going to happen over and over again. My point being that the unrepresented buyer, especially those 300,000 and below, the people that are 100% financed and can't afford a real estate agent, they're going to try to skip from paying an agent. They're not going to have any representation for the most part. And those are the ones that are going to be greatly hurt from this. It wasn't up until like last week that the VA said that you could even pay your own agent. Like, all these loans, all these different requirements for this stuff, like, hasn't even caught up to what these judges are up there thinking they're going to do in this lawsuit. And I'm not going to name any names, but even the lawyers that jumped in on this case, they don't understand what it's going to do to the market. And the one it's going to really hurt is at the bottom of the chain. The rich will always pay for representation because they know where to do that and where not. They will actually research their agent before they go hire that one agent that does one deal a year or one deal in the last 5 years, and you think you're going to get good representation. Now, for those agents that can get out there and prove their worth, that does 20, 30, 40 transactions a year and is really good at this, well, those agents are going to still thrive. But the ones that don't, they're not going to be profitable anymore, because the logistics that the MLS has put down for actually saying whether a house has a commission on it or not is absolutely insane. The MLS across the board, all the MLSs have said, hey, you are not going to be able to list real estate agent compensation on the MLS. Anything that touches the MLS, any syndicate that touches the MLS. So you're going to wind up having a client and you're going to go and try to find a house, and you're going to be like, I don't know whether there's commission offered or not. So what's going to happen is every agent is going to have to call every seller's agent times 30 or whatever, how many people are interested, and ask whether there is compensation being offered. And they're going to have to send over their seller's agreement or whatever they wind up having to agree on that the document will look like, because they've changed it 3 times. And before you even go, you're going to sign that buyer's agent agreement saying you're going to pay your agent 2.5% or 2%, and you're going to go and look at properties. And you're going to have to probably have one of these for every one of them that you go to look at. Probably the buyer's agent agreement will cover multiple properties, or what the who, what, when, where, and why of your relationship will be. And you'll probably wind up seeing houses out there that will be offering buy-side commissions. And honestly, buyer's agent sells houses. I don't care what your agent says, what kind of smoke they're throwing at you, but the majority of the time, I don't care who your agent is, the buyer's agent will bring the buyer and the money. And no, by scrapping the buyer's agent, it is not going to save you money. The seller is going to wind up keeping that extra money. You're just going to have seller's agents wind up doing double the amount of work for less the price, race to the bottom, and taking on all the risk. The big problem with this is, how do you know that a client will not have signed 3 buyer's agents agreements with multiple agents, get under contract, and then all of a sudden there's 3 agents coming out with buyer's agents agreements saying, oh, they signed with us, so that's my client. Oh, they signed with me, so that's my client. How is that going to be enforced? And you're just going to have brokerages suing each other over and over and over and over again. This happened last week. One of the agents I know got a house under contract. Their client had already gotten a house under contract with another agent. They had 2 houses under contract. And then the agents are sitting there screaming at each other. And at what point do you not blame the agents and blame the client? And there's great clients out there, and I really appreciate great clients. But there are some that play the game between agents. And they're like, oh, I can pick up a phone and get another agent. Well, you're not going to get a good one. And once the good agent's figured out that's what you're doing, you're just going to have some bad representation. You're going to go get that agent, they'll just pick up the phone and do it because it's the only thing they got going for them. And this is where I think the pro of the agent agreement is that, you know, you have a known relationship with, you know, this client. And for the agent, you have to produce for that client. This is a double-sided agreement. It's a double-sided relationship that we know what is expected from each other. Since the MLS will not let you hang this document on the internet, the, you know, seller's listing agreement or something to that measure, nobody knows this document exists. You have to ask for it. It already is hard to get a listing agent to call you back, respond to an email, much less times 30 send out, you know, whether they're offering commission or not. And then when these buyer's agents agreements get signed, how do you even know whether the cash is available to the client to pay you? They haven't even said, is it going to be, you know, one of those things that you have to pay at closing? And I know there's going to be some agents out there that are going to say, well, no, in Michigan, we do it this way. Well, here in the South, in the state of Florida, these really haven't been a thing. And the way our MLSs are wording this, the Florida Association of Realtors, or, you know, NAR jumping into the freight train, it's all being done differently across the board. And all types of different terminology and what you can and can't say in these buyer's agent agreements. Because in some of these agreements, you have like agent bonuses, like on some of the new builds. There'll be 3% plus a $20,000 agent bonus on some of these deals. Well, underneath these agreements, like under what the Florida Association of Realtors is saying, or the Florida Realtors Association, they're saying, well, anything over what you agreed upon can't be given to you. It's like NAR doesn't realize that they're like a business, and once you make it to where people cannot make money in your industry anymore, they're just going to get out. Like, I think NAR should just basically go under. It should just be rebranded, send it back down to the local MLSs, local boards, and say, hey, the Florida Real Estate Association or the Pensacola Real Estate Association is going to govern itself. And instead of some king 1,000 miles away at NAR that just got slapped with a $418 million lawsuit, and then they're just going to double my dues next year because they got in trouble. But right now, these MLSs and the National Association of Realtors are trying every way possible to make these agents non-profitable. And look, some of these agents are amazing, and they will do great no matter what they sell. And a lot of them will stick with it. But what you will have is probably 50% of the agents fall out of the market. They will just go away and do something else. They'll go get jobs because they won't be profitable anymore. And that's what I don't understand, how these MLSs think they're going to keep the lights on when they lose half their agents, which they're going to. The good ones that have a plan, they're going to dominate the market like always. The top 10% of agents sell all the properties most likely, par from like a handful of ones just running into deals every once in a while. And that's where you get the good agents, is the ones that are out there doing lots of deals, and they're really good. But I just don't understand what these boards are thinking. Like, it's wild. NAR just basically wants its hand out of the cookie jar. Doesn't want to have anything to do with the risk of compensation. But it doesn't make any sense, because that's how their dues get paid. That's how agents make money, and that's the whole point. It's a business just like anything else. Whether you're a real estate agent out there or you are a client needing a real estate agent, you got to know that the agent has to be able to feed his family or her family. Like, they have to work hard and they have to be compensated for their time. Because a lot of these agents have spent 10, 15, 20 years developing a bank of knowledge, walking through hundreds of houses to keep their client from making a mistake. I'm already seeing brokerages already infighting over buyer's agents agreements. Some of them haven't even paid attention on how to actually do these agreements. Some are just going off hearsay because they don't actually keep up with anything. So you've got good agents fighting with bad agents, because the bad agents don't even know what they're doing to begin with. And especially if they're on the listing side and they're like, oh, well, it's already started, we're not going to offer any, buyer's agent commission. Then the house sits for 180 days. And that's what I've been saying, is like, when these buyer's agents bring their clients, they've spent hours talking to clients, developing a network, developing systems to get these, houses sold, and they go out and they look at these properties. They're an expert in that area and they know everything about some of these neighborhoods, or they keep people from overpaying on the property. And then you have these sellers like, you know what, why isn't my house selling? And they're like, oh, well, that's steering. No, 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 no. That's not steering. Like, you have to be able to earn a wage. Like, not making money, that's slavery when you're having to do work. And many of these brokers are not going to allow you to go into a 1% deal, 1.5% deal. It's not profitable. The risk is too much. And you're doing a lot of work. Like, this is a 45-day relationship that you're going to spend hours, I mean, tens of hours, hundreds of hours on. And if you're not, then you're not a great agent. The major pros of this is you know what your relationship is with your client. Client knows what their relationship is with you. Everybody knows what's going to be paid. And if compensation is offered, they know that, they're not going to wind up paying that 2.5% or whatnot. And, that's great. And for like for me, I get a lot of clients from all over the place, and you never really know how many other agents they're talking to. But when you have that agreement, you have a one-on-one relationship, you've proved your worth, you know that you have a duty to them to make sure you're representing them, the service quality is right. And that's a great thing. It's a great thing that you can have a relationship. There's also a hodgepodge of different houses out there with different commission structures. And sometimes, it is a problem when we're trying to make a living out of being an agent. I think what you'll see is some of the really good agents will just start representing themselves, and they'll just be doing their own real estate transactions. And you're just creating it really hard for people to make money. And the logistics of these agreements is what's really making it hard to make money. I feel like the system was fine just the way it was. Here in Florida, the listing agreement was very, very straightforward. The MLS was very straightforward, and it's operated like that for many years, just fine. And because there is a lawsuit on the other side of the country, we've got to go and reinvent the wheel. These boards have spent thousands of hours trying to figure out how this is going to go down. And everything that comes out is like, have you ever tried to implement this? Because it's going to be awful. You're going to have agents sandbagging on each other. You're going to have agents having fake agreements. You're not going to be able to prove half this stuff. You're going to have brokers suing brokers. There's going to be so many lawsuits over this. Title companies won't even come out and say, this is where we stand on this, because they haven't even made it known. There are so many business plans, the way these brokerages have always operated. People spending hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and all of a sudden, we're just going to change the way the game's played. And people are not going to go bankrupt, lose the way they've been doing things for many, many years. It is crazy to think like how some lawsuit can govern how a house is sold on the entire other side of the country. If the realtors associations would have just focused on getting rid of bad agents and enforcing their rules, spent all those thousands of hours just getting rid of ethically bad agents, we wouldn't be in this position. But that's where we're at. And, for the clients, I feel for them, because now all of a sudden representation might not be out there for them. It might be a question on like, do I know this agent? Do I want to get in a contract with them? And for those that aren't savvy in real estate, this is an important thing. I see clients all the time like needing really big help because they're in really big trouble because I got some really bad advice. But comment down below what you think on this. Let me know, do you agree with having to sign a buyer's agent agreement, or are you going to do it? Because we're being forced to do this. There's no way for us to get around it. This is going to be a counseling event for us, and we could get fined for this, and we could get sued for this stuff. But they're forcing it on us, and they're forcing it on the client. So what do you think about this? Do you agree with it? Do you not? And I don't want to. Don't give me the I hate real estate agents. No, there's some really good ones out there, and they try very hard, and they show their worth, and they help people every day. And if you hire them for when problems go bad, and sometimes they go really bad. So just tell me what you think, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.